Passive income. Sounds nice, huh? Well, I've got some tips and some examples of how the platform Patreon might help unlock this exciting new opportunity for your brand or business. So let's jump right in. I'm Phil Pallen, a brand strategist. Welcome to my channel where I promise practical advice to build your brand. Today we're talking about Patreon, specifically as a platform to potentially create a new vertical of your business. I recently discussed this topic on my podcast with my friend Jordan Ellis. That episode is totally worth giving a listen to. I'll highlight some of the great points that she makes in this video as well. Let's start at the very beginning. What the heck is Patreon? I'll jump over to my computer now and show you. Now, I'd imagine if you're watching this video, you have some idea of what Patreon is, but let me quickly explain it in really a sentence or two. It's a membership platform that makes it easy for creators to get paid. Now, you may have seen from some of your favorite creators their Patreon, which basically enables you to support them and to get something in return. Don't worry, in a second, we're going to look at some examples. This can be a really powerful, incredible way that creators can connect with their community while getting financial income, while getting incentivized in that way. It's kind of like a Kickstarter, but it's continual, right? You're able to do what you absolutely love to do. And let's say you're making things all the time, then people can join your Patreon to support you. So now you know what the platform is. Let's look at some examples of Patreon done right. And why not pull some examples from my own Patreon account? I'm going to show you two examples that I think are done really well, including Jordan, who I mentioned a second ago. Her brand is called The Sartorial Geek, and she does a really, really great job here. I am signed up for this, and I really love consuming the content that she creates. She really knows her audience. So if you look at the variety of posts here, you're seeing polls, you're seeing updates, you're seeing media. It's really fantastic. Patreon as an interface is really simple. So here it defaults to the home tab, and here I can filter by different post types, by tiers. We'll talk about that in a second. If I click over here to community, this is an area where we can be a little more interactive. I should note, she also has a Discord, which is popular nowadays. So you might, if you're thinking about launching one, you might think about having that as your main community element. We'll click over here to about, and this is just a little video and a little bit of text that explains who she is, what her community is about. Finally, over on membership, here you can see that I am a Patreon VIP, which means I pay $5 a month for her community, and that's basically how it works. Down here, if I want to upgrade my membership, I can, and Jordan does a great job of explaining what I get in result of that upgrade. Now, another Patreon that I have is actually one that I discovered on YouTube. While I'm working and while I'm creating and writing scripts for YouTube videos, I'm often listening to music here on YouTube. And so I really love this DJ that I discovered, Chris Luno. His mixes have tons of views, in some cases millions of views. And so I decided maybe I should check out his Patreon, which is exactly what I've done. When I click over to membership here, you'll see that I pay $5 a month to be a club member. And I absolutely love this membership, by the way, because he'll give secret mixes. So here's a single that he recently launched. He'll just have this kind of interaction that he has one-to-one that you don't get on YouTube when hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of people are listening. Plus, he'll give us mixes that I know you can't just discover on YouTube, and I absolutely love that. So those are two examples of Patreons that I've signed up for myself. All of this sounds great, but where do you even begin? I'm going to show you. Patreon knows that right about now, you're probably feeling overwhelmed. Where do you begin? So they have this great getting started guide. I've taken a look at this, and I think this is just the best place for you to start. I also recommend reading every single page that they've linked. They really do a good job of efficiently explaining what you need to know without over-explaining or overwhelming, right? A project like this, it can feel overwhelming. This is like something that you keep putting off because you just don't know where to start. I really do recommend just jumping in here, understanding it step by step, right? Ideas for benefits to offer patrons, setting up your membership program, how to set up your tiers and benefits. We'll talk more about that in a second. But I really do think this getting started guide, which is linked in the description below, is going to be your best flow or process by which that, you'll start to feel really comfortable with how to begin. A key to succeeding on Patreon is working out your tiers, what you'll offer and at what price. So let's discuss that. This might be the most important part of setting up your Patreon. And I don't think you're going to get the best ideas from their getting started guide. That's going to give you probably some ideas, but the best way to do research on this front, I discovered this website called Graphtreon, which is actually tracking the hottest Patreon creators and the top Patreon creators. So if we think here, well, this, for example, Matt and Shane's Secret Podcast is ranked #1, over 60,000 patrons, and that's their estimated earnings. Absolutely incredible. They're obviously doing something right. So this would be a good opportunity to do a little bit of market research, let's call it. I'll actually open up their Patreon, which looks like this. I'm not a member, but if I was going to be, I would select my membership level. Very interesting that they have a $1 a month that is sold out. Their next level is $5 a month. I see that as, a popular kind of entry point here on Patreon for a lot of brands. Divine Order, they call this one, which is $10 a month, and there are even more levels. Now, I'm curious to know what I get for each one of these levels, and I think if I was to read the fine print here, it's going to tell me exactly what I get to access for that amount of money. That's what you want to be thinking about with your tiers. How are you incentivizing each person that joins? To go back to Jordan's example, I think she does a really, really excellent job of this. I'll navigate here over to memberships. I pointed this out earlier. I'm a Patreon VIP, but if I upgraded, have a look here at how she explains what I get. Notice that when I start to pay more money, I actually get physical goods. So for example, an enamel pin, stickers, and at least one big exciting gift, which she keeps a secret, but that's actually kind of exciting in itself. As you think about your tiers, you want to be thinking about maybe some digital goods that you can give. Examples could be an exclusive Q&A, special audio or a video recording, digital downloads, maybe a playlist on Spotify. And Jordan mentioned in our podcast recording that certainly at the higher tiers, you want to be careful with what you offer for physical goods because that costs more money when it comes to shipping and such. So depending on the pricing tier, it could be stickers, it could be buttons, enamel pins, prints, or zines, just to give you a few examples. Another article I love on this topic is by Hootsuite, actually, and they have a great little table of contents here. I like this section. How can I make more money on Patreon? Because I imagine this is what you're thinking. Almost think of this as like a to-do list, and these are probably things within your control. These are things that you can actually do. You just need to be told how to do them. Expand your total addressable audience. So it could be YouTube, which is something I do by creating on this platform. It could be Instagram. It could be email marketing. Where do you already have followers gathered? Where can you grow that reach? And are you talking about your Patreon on those different channels? Very important. Driving traffic to your creator page. So even adding a link on your social media bios. Now on Instagram, it's possible to have multiple links in bio. This would be a great thing to put on your bio. Using free content to convert traffic into patrons. That's a really, really good idea to start to win someone's trust so that they're willing to spend even a little bit of money on you, and certainly multiply that by a bigger audience, and that is going to add up. I'll link to this article in the description below. Finally, let's round off this discussion today with advice on how to promote your Patreon without feeling weird about it. I get it, this can feel very self-promotional, so you really want to get over this feeling of, feeling weird about it, feeling uncomfortable. Now, Patreon does a good job of getting us started on some ideas, but I think they could build this out a little bit further. Share your link, add it to your bios, so think about all the bios you have on social media, your link in bios. Promoting this on social media, not in a self-promotional way, but reminding them that the money that goes towards your Patreon actually goes towards funding the team who creates your projects. Could be a good example. Anytime I want to get over the feeling of feeling salesy, I try to remind myself to focus on the benefits. How is this benefiting the end user? This could be fun. This could be helpful. Join our community. That's an example of some of the language that I often find helps me. If you have a podcast, make sure you're mentioning that in the intro or the outro, your Patreon. And finally, not everyone might agree with this advice, but if you're uncomfortable with how much you're setting your tiers, maybe start lower. You can always grow and increase your tier levels as your Patreon grows. Think of it as a reward for the first handful of people that actually join your community. In a way, they are early adopters. So that's Patreon and some advice for getting started and navigating this platform to ensure your success. If you are interested, definitely give my podcast episode with Jordan a listen, and I'll link to that below, as well as the examples described earlier. All of that is linked. If you've got any lingering questions, comment below. Let's keep the conversation going on down there. I respond to those personally, and I bet that Jordan is also up for responding to those as well. She is the best. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a like. That helps other people discover these videos, which we work hard to create for you, and subscribe for more of my videos on branding, positioning, building, and promoting your brand. Next, I'm sharing a few videos I think you'll be interested in. I'm Pallen. Thank you for watching. Those are coming up next.